Good morning, good afternoon, good day, everybody, for another exciting discussion about AI in project management. Today, I'm really happy to be introducing my guest, which is Asya Watkins from Women of Project Management. Asya, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. So thank you, Lloyd. So thank you for having me. My name is, as you said, Asya Watkins, and I'm the founder of Women of Project Management. We are one of the only communities created to support women and women of color in the project management industry worldwide. And I have a little bit about me. I have about 20 years of experience in project management. Mostly healthcare and the pharma, working with large organizations in the US. And I went throughout my career working, loved project management, but really realized that I wanted to really create a network and a professional network that catered to more of women and women of color and those unique needs in the industry. And so that's what I did. So that's where my career is now. And I'm happy to be here to share whatever experience I have to lend to this really great conversation I know we're about to have.
Fantastic. Well, thank you
Mhm.
for being here as
Mhm.
well. So let's dive in and start off,
Yeah.
very general, as it were, in terms of use cases around AI in
Mhm.
project management. What's your view on this?
So, it's very interesting. I think we're all new to it, right? We're all figuring out the way. It's a really exciting time. For me personally, I use it and I'm dabbling and trying to find all the ways I can use it from a few different perspectives. For me, it's more of building a business, building a community, and building this, community up to support women and women of color in this industry worldwide. And so what that looks like for me is really leveraging the project management experience that I've had over the 20 years to be able to not just sew into the education part, but also building a business. We just had a conference, our annual conference a month ago, and we used AI to even build out the questions that we wanted
Wow.
to have. So that was really good because I was really surprised of, of course, it depends on the prompts and all the things and learning and understanding, but for it to be able to pull out a lot of questions that were really actually very good for us. So a large part of our agenda for the whole entire conference and even the panel questions was courtesy of using AI for that. And if you think about that and the impact of that, it was really something that we had never done before, but it was also our conferences are usually, mostly Black women. And this is spaces where they've never been to a conference and they're used to being the only one in the room. So these rooms and these conferences have about 100, 150 women, mostly Black women. It's a very much a sacred space. So to be able to, use what's very sacred to us, but also to marry that with AI and build out a whole conference and a lot of panel, the questions that we asked the panels, it was really showed of, the the way you can use AI in such a great way to
Yeah.
be able to partner that to be able to create the content for that conference and to be able to see in real time these questions, being able to ask our panelists using these questions, but the impact that is providing to the women in the room in real time. So that was one of the use cases that we used for the first time a few months ago. And it really had a huge impact.
Well, I
It made me think about things differently.
well, I was going to ask, can
Yeah,
you imagine if you didn't have the AI,
yeah,
how much saving, how many
yeah,
hours or days of effort would that normally
yeah.
take you?
Yeah, well, it was a direct example of last year for our very first conference, and we did it ourselves. And it took a lot more time because you want to really make sure that you're thinking about it from different perspectives, that you're providing a lot of different angles for the questions. And you're also having, the heart of it and making sure that we're asking questions that people are engaging with, and to be able to, on the flip side, have that information and put in some prompts based on what we did last time, but to be able to have AI take it to a whole different level
Yeah.
was very different because we were able to do it very, very quickly of,
Yeah.
oh, here's one scenario of how to lay out the conference. Let's push regenerate a few times
Yeah.
and figure out a whole bunch of different scenarios and then kind of pick and choose what's best to make the highest quality
Yeah.
layout and conversation. So we were able to do that in pretty much a day, where
Yeah.
we took weeks and weeks to analyze and did we cover all the things. And we had more options than we even needed to use by just simply marrying that with AI.
Well, and I think the other interesting thing you said there was it
Mhm,
came across, and I presume the answer to this is yes, but it was
mhm.
the quality of the responses as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. It was the quality and it was the broad perspective. So it brought an even broader perspective because from my experience, even have 20 years and thinking about it, you're not thinking of everything. You're not pulling out everything out of your brain, right? You're trying to think of what's on the surface and what would be great and entertaining and interactive, but to be able to marry what's in your brain and your best thoughts and bringing your best scenario of what you want for this, conference, for this example, and then marry that with AI and just basically adding more layers and broadening the perspective and diversifying a lot of those different questions of things. You're like, oh, I didn't think about but that would be great. And then kind of add that into, to AI and then having it also then polish it up, and provide even broader,
Yeah.
questions and perspective. So it really showed us of the all of the different things that AI can bring in of the different perspectives that can really enrich a
Yeah.
scenario like that.
And also I assume that ultimately you were using
Mhm.
it for ideas, but ultimately it was your
Yeah,
call what the final
correct.
script was, as it were,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also important to know, especially at this point, and I would assume probably going further, even as AI evolves, you still have to have good information to put in, right? You
Yeah.
have to ask it, a certain way. You have to have certain prompts, but you also have to have a good, solid basis of the information that goes in. You can't put in just very, very vague and expect to have a genuine output of really great content. You have to put in really great content, and then the hope is that it elevates what it
Yeah.
is. But there also always has to be that human aspect, at least at this point, that
Yeah.
human aspect of, oh, okay, that part was great of the output, but we need to kind of massage the data a little bit more and then retry again the prompt. So it really was of putting information in, but continuously learning how to, okay, let me change the prompt a little bit here, let me change it there to be able to get even better results on the
Well,
back end.
I'm seeing, that's obviously we're talking about the chat GPT end of things,
Yeah.
but I'm
Hmm.
seeing, Copilot, Microsoft Copilot that's about to come
Yeah.
out, and it's going to take that script and it's going to create your slides and it's going to
Yeah.
blend in animation, no doubt speaking. I mean,
Yeah.
this conference setup, I just
Yeah.
like, for me, it's just going to squash and for me, that's great. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
then becomes what can you do with that
Yeah.
extra time,
Yeah.
and whether that's
Yeah.
more conferences or more, more marketing, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it frees
Yeah.
you up, does it not?
Yeah, it does. It does free you up because even from two perspectives, right? I spent the most of my career working in a company. And so for that, I would think from the corporate perspective of it gives you so much more of your time back to be able to do those other responsibilities and pour into those, and not just pour into those and not just for the sake of being busy, but quality. So that's what I think. If I get some of my time back, then I'm able to pour into the other responsibilities that I have and have a higher quality. Because even if you have 10 tasks and AI is helping you with one, either way it goes with AI or not AI, you still have to do those tasks. But I would think that AI would help you take it to another level and the quality would be better. But even the quality that you're pouring into of other responsibilities that maybe you can't use AI for,
Yeah.
I don't know, or maybe you can. I would think that instinctively the quality would go up higher because now you have some of your time back. And what you do have to focus on, you could actually give your full capacity. You have more brain space to actually, do better quality of work. So I think that's something that many people don't talk about. It's more of, well, AI and it's, what it's going to be taking away instead of what it's going to be giving back in time and all that you can do and pour into with that additional time, that additional brain space that you do have.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. If you
Yeah.
don't mind, I'm just going to jump on something that you said
Yeah.
in the middle of your answer there
Hmm.
and it was just a little snippet. I picked up on it. And you
Okay.
said at this point in time, you were talking
Yeah.
about AI not doing everything at this point in time.
Yeah.
If we future gaze a little bit,
Hmm.
tell me what you meant by that and what your thinking was.
Yeah. So don't laugh at me, Lloyd, because this is what I'm thinking. I think of AI right now as dating. It's the dating phase, right? So we're not married. We're not married yet. We're just trying to figure out, is this going to work? This looks like a really great person that I could possibly marry in the
Yeah.
future. But for now, they're a really great date, right? Sometimes the dates are depending on the prompts you put in, depending on the data you put in, and the output you get out, right? So there's going to be those little quarrels, during that dating phase. But, I think we're all going into it with high hopes,
Yeah.
like we do it with dating, right? But you're wanting to go, but you're also being very cautious as you're going and hopeful, but cautious as you're going. So that's kind of what I kind of think of and liken it to of AI is more of the dating phase, and we all want to get to that
I,
marriage part,
I,
but we're
I, I,
not there yet.
I've never heard of it as referred to as the dating phase. However, I'm going to raise your stakes here. I think it's
Okay.
earlier than the dating phase. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this really is,
Yeah.
ChatGPT publicly is,
Yeah.
depending on how early is last November or maybe a
Yeah.
bit later for some people, as it were. But
Yeah.
we're just learning on this
Yeah.
journey. And,
Yeah.
it's really interesting because the wider rhetoric is
Hmm.
about oh, it will never take over the human emotion
Hmm.
and we'll be all right, it's a resource for you and all of that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
and I think it's a really interesting conversation, and I don't think that mainstream it's been debated about the benefits of in your example where it
Yeah.
stops and starts.
Yeah.
If Copilot's going live in a week or so or next
Hmm.
month or so, if you then
Hmm.
roll forward a year and 2 years or 3 years,
Yeah.
why not have the whole event curated and
Yeah.
maybe an avatar and maybe somebody comes in from some again, it depends on your view of the world. I mean, you can
Yeah.
tell my view of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's yours? How far are we going on this journey?
I think that there is a few different things to consider. So I think folks like you who are, I would consider way more advanced when it comes to AI and the knowledge and the and adopting of AI, right? This has been your world. This is your world. For many, I think we're dipping our toe in it and we're trying to figure out like, oh, will this work? We're still dating. We're still
Yeah,
trying to figure, and we have the high hopes. So I think there's a few, people who are more advanced and just that they've been diving into this. This is
yeah,
not being introduced to them now, whereas this is nothing new for you,
yeah, yeah,
but many it's like, oh, let me just download this app. Let me just try.
yeah.
We're even my team, we're just having conversations. We just had conversations before of, hey, I use ChatGPT and I was saying I wanted to lose some weight and it put a whole meal plan for me and my family. And the whole team was like, what? It does
Yeah.
that? So I think some people were just, you know, figuring out like, oh wow, there are a lot of things, whereas, folks like you and you're talking to your clients, and it's way more elevated conversations, right? So I think there's those different folks. It's I back to the dating. It's almost like if I had to, use that scenario, it's almost like when dating apps were just coming out.
Yeah.
And some people were like, I'm never getting on there. There's killers on there. I'm not, this is something, it doesn't make any sense. No one will ever use dating apps. I'll just do everything offline. I'm not doing it. And then where we, snip it to, fast forward to a few
Yeah.
years ahead now, it's so much
I don't know what you're talking about, to be honest. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I love this. I think the point is we're in a nascent technology stage, and to spare my own blushes, one person can only know what they know, and there's some very clever people out there, but I think this is a joint effort. But I think the point about ChatGPT is it's sort of just elevated the whole space. If I think about our journey, a few years ago, people just looked at us strangely when I was talking about, AI and in project and project prediction. But now, people are beating the way to the door, and we focused this conversation so far on ChatGPT and the efficiencies. But when you think about projects, I was also thinking about other stuff there about, in terms of the analysis of who came to the event, and and profiling, and where you can start really leveraging that data. Is that a space that you're also thinking about?
Absolutely. I think about that from even a small business perspective, right? Of running my business, right? So we know that even as a small business, people are usually running it on a very lean team, right? So there's not so many people, and everyone's usually wearing a lot of different types of hats. And with that comes, as a business owner, me naturally thinking, well, how can we use AI to be able to help us in some of the things that we already do, to be able to look at the analysis of everything from finances and forecasting for your business, to who is your customer and your customer data, to how can we use data that we're already gathering? Because a lot of times, as you know, it's just a lot of data. Sometimes you're not gathering enough, and sometimes you're gathering way too much, and that could be overwhelming too. But to think of, we're just starting to dip our toes into more of, let me see how I can actually leverage AI. For example, one of the things in real time, just being transparent as a business owner and running this, and also wanting to be running the business the best to my ability to be able to serve, the women of this community, but being able to even look up dashboards. Like, that's what I've been doing the last few weeks of, let me look up dashboards that will pull in even our social media, that will pull in our finances, that will pull in data from the conference. That's still overwhelming. How can I do that and put it all in one dashboard? And what's going to help me do that, and be able to incorporate AI? And there's so many softwares that are also doing that, instead of using just this software, just this. How do I do it as collective? Because then it takes so much more time to do that. So I think it's really important, and it's also very necessary, even just to be able to bring in data, to use AI to do that and do it more efficiently. I think it could also be the difference between some companies being able to scale, and some companies being stagnant if you don't take advantage of this technology.
It sounds like it's empowering you.
Yes, it is.
And that's got to be a good thing. And if I bring it back to the projects use case, because to spare your blushes this time, I sort of see you as a sort of program director type who's working out how to make these things happen. And if you're a program director type, some of the examples you're talking about there in terms of just driving efficiencies and the savings it's making, that's got to be worth investigating. challenging, hasn't it? You know?
Absolutely. So for me, and I'm sure this is like this in a lot of different companies, when I did work with an organization, it was very fast paced. It was a lot of data and a lot of things that were coming at you at one time. So I would see anybody in leadership. And honestly, I could see everybody at using AI to their benefit to be able to support the organization as a whole. But I would definitely say a lot of times directors, they have a lot of people underneath them and a lot of people reporting up to them and a lot of data and a lot of spreadsheets. And if AI could be used to be able to crunch those numbers, to be able to, for them to be able to see what the data is telling them, because a lot of times there's not a lot of data. And then when there is a lot of data, it's paralyzing.
Yeah.
And so if you can use that and not just use a Microsoft spreadsheet
Yeah.
and to look at data and put in formulas and all that, that's wonderful, but it can only take you so far. But I could see someone in leadership in those organizations, and honestly, in any organization, small or large, being able to use AI to create that dashboard, to also be able to just crunch all those numbers. Because honestly, all those numbers mean nothing if you can't see what the story is telling you. And if you can use AI to be able to spit out a report or show you those trends and be able to crunch numbers, to me, that's where the magic lies, because numbers mean nothing until you understand, well, what is this telling me? And if you can have AI do that and spit out a report for you every morning at 9 a.m., that's going to make a huge difference and be able to shift the way you do business.
Fantastic, fantastic. Look, we're coming to an end of this conversation. I'm sure we could chat for longer. You know, this dating simile is going to stick with me in this conversation. But first of all, the challenge before we go.
Yeah.
You know, we've both been very positive. You know,
Yeah.
is there any scary things here for you?
I would say some of the scary things, just me going through it, even just for my business, right? Some of the scary things are, one for me is not having accurate data. So that's a big thing because you can't spit out quality data and reports and all the great things that we were talking about in these wonderful scenarios if the data that's going in is not accurate, right? Or the data that's being processed is based off of a lot of, data that's out there that may be skewed. So for example, um, I'm a Black woman, right? That's a little obvious. But I'm a Black woman, and even for any minority, sometimes the data is skewed. I'll give you an example. Because I'm in project management, and some of the data that I look at is through, say, the Project Management Institute. They have been really great of doing really great research to work against biases of women working in project management. Even some of the certifications, there's questions on there. It's very male driven. They have an amazing woman who has her doctor, is Dr. Garcia, who does really amazing work to work against that and kind of undo some of those biases. However, everyone and all data is not doing the same, right?
Yeah.
And so if ChatGPT or whatever AI is using stale data or biased data to then spit that out and give that into whatever statistics, it's still going to come out and the end result is still going to be biased results, right? Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that we have to be a little scary about. It's a little scary, and my hope is that people will also pay attention to that and pay attention to those biases because, AI and this new technology, it is exciting. However, we want to make sure that we're not duplicating a lot of those biases and putting bad data in, because all it's going to do is have bad data out or skewed data out. That's not going to be beneficial. And so I think that human part has to be in there to actually look at the data and say, wait a minute, or look at where you're getting the data. It's almost like when you read a book, right? Who wrote the book? Who financed this study, right? That's always going to skew some data. So I think we still have to be alert in that when we're looking at this and we're being so excited, which it is exciting about AI and what it can produce, but also looking at the quality of it as well.
Fantastic. Look, I would ask you if there were any other challenges, but we're running out of time, and we need to get back to this dating example as well. So
Yeah.
so this is your final little conclusion. If there was a takeaway for
Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
what's your sort of headline takeaway?
I think my takeaway is I think AI, it has so many good things and I'm excited about it. I think there's probably going to be more good than bad. I know that's very controversial to say, but I think that there could be way more good than bad. You just have to figure out what it is, how you want to use it, how you analyze the data. So just like dating, right? There's going to be a lot of frogs out there that you have to kiss, but when you find that one, it's great. Right. So I think it
Fantastic.
could be similar with AI.
Well, I've got to stop on that moment. That's been wonderful. It's been lovely to speak to you, and I love I love your examples
Yeah.
and what you've been doing, and I love what you're doing as a business as well.
Thank you.
We should all support you on that, and I hope that goes really well for you in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Laura. And thank you for having me. I always have great conversations with you.
Fantastic. You take care now.
Thank you so much.